store live video stream at 560theanswer.com.
Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Nick Gillespie writing in Reason.com. And Gillespie, libertarian, so, no Trump devotee, but he's not an ever-Trumper either. At times it was listening to Robin Williams' genie in the Disney movie Aladdin, Howard Stern in his peak years as a radio shock jock, or Don Rickles as an insult comic. First and foremost, Trump was frequently funny and outre in the casually mean way New Yorkers exude like nobody else in America.
Oh, that's so true.
And speaking of never Trump, Trump had a specific message to those never Trump Republicans, including those trying to recruit like Maryland Governor Larry Hogan to run against him in a primary.
They say things to your face, and then you see 2 days later they're giving a news conference. It's like, where did that guy come from? Where did he come from? But everyone in this great country, right now, because of our great new economy, is doing well, except, of course, for the never-Trumpers. But they are on mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
Interesting, because a couple of those never-Trumpers, have a new media outlet called The Bulwark.
What is it called?
The Bulwark.
Okay.
That's Charlie Sykes, formerly Milwaukee
from
radio
Milwaukee.
talk show host, Bill Kristol,
Yes.
and some staff like this Molly Jung Fast, who wrote a evisceration of CPAC in general and Trump with some specificity. We'll see if they're able to get any footing. Also, announcement last week, Jonah Goldberg and Steve Hayes, formerly the Weekly Standard, Jonah Goldberg, National Review, they're putting together some kind of outlet as well. I'm not saying that will be never Trumper, but both have been more critical of Trump than they haven't been, I would say, since the announcement of his candidacy, now halfway into his presidency. For more on all of this, including some of the substance of what Trump had to say of a policy nature, we're pleased to be joined again by Matthew Continetti, the editor of the Washington Free Beacon. Matthew, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So what about never-Trumpers, the prospect of Trump facing any real internal opposition within Republican ranks? Matt Schlapp from American Conservative Union, who's the organizer of the CPAC, actually sort of tackled that topic during one of the panel discussions at CPAC, the prospect of a challenge to Trump in the primary, suggesting that it could do the president well to have a primary tune-up while the Democrat socialists are, fighting over signed copies of the Communist Manifesto.
Well, historically, inter-party challenges to an incumbent president don't help him in the general election. But I think this is not going to be an issue for President Trump. He's extremely popular in the Republican Party. His approval rating is up in recent weeks among the public generally. I don't see the political space for a challenge to President Trump at this time. The way to challenge him, typically these inter-party primaries come from deep ideological disagreements with the incumbent president. But President Trump has been a very effective champion of conservative policies and causes. So I don't see a party challenge right now.
What did you make of his 2-hour, 2-minute speech at CPAC?
Well, I have to say I do errands on Saturdays, so I think like most of the country, I didn't catch all of it. Ran a little long, but I think Nick Gillespie's assessment and reason that you quoted from seems fairly accurate. I was there at CPAC when Trump spoke in 2017, and then too he kind of threw the script away and just kind of riffed, which is the mode in which he's most comfortable, and I think he held the crowd for his for at least an hour and 58 minutes of the 2-hour speech.
No question.
And so I think that just showed what I was saying about how his popularity within the party, and he had some good lines. So Trump is entertaining. This is an underrated quality in politicians, especially presidents. I mean, you have to live with this person for at least 4 years, possibly 8, and you want them to be someone that you want to watch, pay attention to, someone who makes you laugh on occasion.
And
so these are all qualities that he has as a president that I think will help him in 2020.
he also seems to have pretty good political instincts, and he is seizing upon AOC's GND, ridiculing the Green New Deal, and also really framing significant portions of the speech, intermittently, of course, because it was sort of all over the place. The 2020 race is going to be freedom versus socialism. Whoever the Democrats nominate, they're going to be socialism. So he's not focused on a particular individual. He's focused on the philosophy and the expression of the philosophy in ridiculous proposals like the GND, which he spent a lot of time ridiculing.
I think that's right, and I think that redounds to Trump's benefit. You know, I mean, since his State of the Union speech, which was also successful, President Trump has kind of begun laying the foundation for his reelection campaign, and it's exactly on this issue you mentioned, which is socialism versus freedom. It's on abortion. Are you for what amounts to infanticide, or are you for at least some restrictions on abortion, like President Trump is? And it also it's on border security. Forget about the polling on the wall, for example. When the polling is on border security, most Americans share President Trump's position. And so he's going to point to people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and say, she's for abolishing ICE. Oh, and by the way, some of the 2020 candidates have also called for abolishing ICE. They're against border security. So in all three issues, I think President Trump has a position that is more in common with American public opinion than the Democratic position.
Now, today, subpoenas are going to come out to nearly 60 people in Trump's inner circle, including Donald Trump Jr., Don McGahn, and others. What do you make of this? Is this the beginning of the impeachment process?
Well, look, the beginning of the impeachment process, such as it is, happened before the election with the FBI plot against Trump, right? I mean, there have been people gunning for Trump and wanting to remove him from office since day one. I view Congress as more of a nuisance than anything, and I think the president should too. I think the real legal danger for the president comes from the investigation in the Southern District of New York. And if you see what they're doing there, it's clear that they are, again, laying some type of basis for an eventual indictment of Trump. Now, Justice Department policy says that a sitting president should not be indicted. And I imagine that the U.S. attorney for the Southern District will follow that guidance. Nonetheless, whether it's in 2 years or in 6 years, probably more likely, President Trump will have to face that threat. But what Congress does right now is just harassment. And there, the Democrats are really walking a fine line, because they know that they want to bother Trump. They want to shoot their subpoena cannon, which is what Adam Schiff calls it, at him. But they also know that impeachment is deeply unpopular in all the polls. People don't want Trump impeached. And so the second they move into actual impeachment proceedings, absent some, truly high crime or misdemeanor, which no one has found yet, the Democrats will be in serious political jeopardy. So here too, I think they're helping President Trump in his reelection campaign.
Well, and it seems like they can't figure out which direction they want to go. So you have the prospect of Jerry Nadler on Clinton Foundation Donor Zero's show this weekend saying, I absolutely believe he obstructed justice, but we don't have the evidence to support that case yet. Working on that, but I believe it. And also, impeachment is not a political decision, but the political landscape isn't ripe for impeachment. So, I mean, so they're talking in these paradoxes because they can't figure out which way to go. They want to go impeachment, but Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to go impeachment. And as you said, they know it's politically unpopular. So what are they to do, and how are they to address this matter as they continue to strike out in terms of any underlying evidence to support the wild claims that Schiff and so many others have been making for 2 years?
Right. When I think you suggest the answer, which is for 2 years, the Democrats and the media have assumed that Robert Mueller would have found something that warranting impeachment, and increasingly it looks like Mueller found no such thing. I mean, he found crimes from various Trump associates, either lying to investigators or, in the case of Manafort and Gates, lobbying violations. Even with Cohen in the Southern District, those crimes really have to do with Cohen's taxes and bank statements relating to his businesses. That's how they scared him into complying with this investigation into the campaign finance violations alleged. So the what looks like in Washington, at least, the rumor mill in Washington says that Mueller is not going to turn up much for the Democrats, and so this has sent them into a panic. And the panic is what's driving them to launch all these subpoenas and all these investigations into all aspects of President Trump's pre-presidential life.
Well,
Such
right.
a witch hunt.
And this is, as Trump eloquently said at CPAC, they're trying to get me with bull jive. And as Renato Mariotti tried to spin it, who's a Chicago-based attorney, CNN flag, tried to spin it in Time this weekend. This is remarkable. If the Mueller investigation, if the Mueller report of his investigation disappoints you, it's Trump's fault.
Oh, my God.
So, I mean, boy, the Democrats seem to be kind of running out of narratives. It's like a sitcom that just has run its course.
It's always Trump's fault, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, that's what you hear from the media, and that's what you hear from the Democrats. And what it does, the more they say that, has had the effect of people just tune it out.
Yeah.
And every time they're talking about how terrible the president is, most Americans, I think at this point, they've made up their mind about Donald Trump. And for Republicans in particular, we can't forget Republicans knew who they were voting for in 2016. It's not like President Trump campaigned as a, civil gentleman with no blots on his personal record, right?
Yes.
We knew exactly who he was. The man has been married 3 times. He's declared bankruptcy multiple times. He's a reality TV show host. He had a huge beauty pageant. He appeared in Playboy video. I mean, we knew he was on the Howard Stern show every week. We knew who he was. And yet the stakes seemed so high and the alternative so bad that Republicans voted for him. And that's the same. The stakes are the same, and the alternatives are seemingly at this point just as bad in 2020.
Yeah, that's the thing. It seems to me right now we're tracking for a rerun of 2020 with just a different nominee for the Democrats. I mean, maybe a third-party candidate that would make it a little bit more complicated. But in terms of what the landscape provides and what the Democrats have or have not learned from the 2016 experience, it seems like this is going to be a rerun at this juncture.
For all the noise and for all the scandals and for all the headlines and all the Twitter fights, American politics is pretty stable. And, the Center for Politics at UVA, the Crystal Ball, Larry Sabato, came out with their first 2020 map last week. And when I look at that map and analyze it, it's the winner of the 2020 presidential election is going to win 2 out of 3 of the following states: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Well, guess what? That's how President Trump won election in 2016. So 4 years will have passed and all of this craziness, but nothing really will have changed. The battleground remains the same. And if the Democrats nominate someone who is considered far out of the mainstream, this helps President Trump. And I have to say, too, someone else that's helped this past week is Howard Schultz, which also helps President Trump. Because if Bernie Sanders looks strong right now, and the idea of the Democratic Party nominating Bernie Sanders, I think you'll see the case made for Howard Schultz, which will draw a lot of Democrats and then split the Democratic Party, and that will redound to Trump's advantage.
Oh, yeah.
All right. He is Matthew Continetti, editor-in-chief of the Washington Free Beacon. Matthew, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/.